I'm here with Chris Wade, PFL Featherweight back in action, June the 8th. Chris, we'll get to the fight in just a minute. This one's going down in Atlanta. Do you miss those Uniondale shows at all back in the day going to Long Island? You are the Long Island Killer.
I missed them so much. It was amazing to be able to compete that close to home, to have all my people there, to drive to my fight, right? It was um an experience that I'll never forget. I thought we'd come back around over here, I thought we'd be a little closer, come back to the island, but it's been a few years we haven't. So, just reminisce about that once in a while with everybody. But I always have my fans. Hey, when's the next time you're gonna be in New York? I want to come to your fight. I'm like, I know you do, man. I don't know when they're gonna ever come back here.
Well, hopefully they do. I got to go down to a couple of those. Definitely a fun time. I got to say, though, the fight coming up, Ryoji Kudo, PFL 4, I feel like he was a bit of an unknown last year to a lot of people, and then he came in, had that knockout of Flores to make the playoffs. With this one coming up, what are you expecting to see from him?
I'm expecting, more of the same, more of what we saw in that fight with Flores, right? He's the kind of guy that for him to be successful, he's really got to come forward. He's got to blitz you, and he's got to try to finish you with that right hand or that left hook. He's not really the fanciest fighter, but he's a tough dude, and he's gonna swing. So he knows he needs points. He knows he needs to swing, and I expect him to try to do so. With that being said, there's opportunity in the fire. So for me, I'm looking at it like he's got to take a bunch of risks as well, and he's going to be leaving himself open plenty of times to also be hurt.
How much, because you mentioned him needing points, you need points as well. How much does that play into your game plan when you go into a fight like this?
Um, you know, when you get put in this situation, you say unfortunately, but it is what it is. The It's the reality, right? We both have to go in there and look for bonus points. And the game plan does have to be structured around that. So I have to be ready and prepared to sprint like right out of the gate. Um, I'm looking at this fight like a 5 minute fight. It's a 1 round, 5 minute fight with, you know, a couple 5 minute possible extensions attached to it. That's the way that my camp and I are viewing this fight. Be prepared to step on that gas pedal for the entire first 5 minutes, and if he survives it somehow, just leave nothing left of him, so that hopefully you could put it away in the second right away.
And you mentioned the camp there. I mean, how much do things change in camp when you're thinking of a fight as a 5 rounder with maybe some bonus rounds? And how just in general, how's camp been going?
Camp's been going great. My mindset has really turned around. I was having some personal issues that last fight with Bubba, and I just wasn't myself. Unfortunately, sometimes life can get you as an athlete. You don't get to see that as a fan. You just watch the guy put his gear on and go out there, and you assume that they're always in the best place they can be in their life. And unfortunately, that's just not the reality. We're all people, and my mind and my mindset is so much better right now. I'm so motivated, and um, I have a lot of energy in me right now, built toward um, proving people all wrong who wrote me off.
I won't pry into the personal issues, but when you say something like that as a fighter, you might only fight 4 times a year, 3 times a year. If you have personal issues or really anything that impacts your performance, it's not like you're playing basketball and you got 82 games a year and you can shake off a bad game. Do you think people kind of overlook that sometimes where, as a fighter, an off night can just be an off night, but they're not going to see you again for 6 months?
Yeah, everything is magnified in fighting. Fighting is the hardest thing to do in the world. That I wrestled, and I could even tell you, everyone's like, wrestling's the toughest thing you could do. No, it isn't. Wrestling is tough, but even in wrestling, if you have that bad tournament or if you have that bad match, um, if your personal life has affected that for whatever reason, 2 or 3 weeks later, you can easily get it right at a different tournament and you can avenge that loss a lot of times immediately. In the fight game, you get to compete like quarterly at best. And a lot of times you never even get to cross that same athlete again. They just think they have your number for the rest of the time after that. The fans as well. They sit there like it's almost becomes this case of like, well, you know, sucks for them because like it's so long in between that they don't they don't care to even think about that. But yeah, you could be on the baseball diamond and be a pitcher and be going through some shit at home and get rocked and absolutely shelled and give up 7 runs, 2 home runs, and then you take a few weeks and regroup, and next time you could pitch well again, and everybody forgets quick. But in fighting, they always remember until you get back in there and you prove them wrong. So it's very tough as a fighter. Very, very tough. Very personal. So one on one, and so much time before you can avenge yourself and get things right.
Definitely, definitely. And they always say you're only as good as your last fight, unfortunately. Speaking of sayings, you win or you learn. I mean, personal issues aside, what did you take away from that second fight with Bubba Jenkins? What did you take away in terms of lessons learned?
Never listen to someone's shit talk. Don't let them convince you of anything else. He spent weeks going on and on about how much his kickboxing had developed and that all he wanted to do was knock me out, punch and kick me for 15 minutes. And all he wanted to do was stall and dry hump me because that's all he can do to beat me. So I got goaded a little bit into thinking like, oh, this guy's developed his stand up game a little bit. I could see us kickboxing for a while. Turns out less kickboxing than our first fight, which was grappling heavy. Um, Listen, if you go and you look at history and you see my losses, a lot of my losses, with the exception of like Brendan and the one Schultz fight, are dudes who just try to wing one shot, get in on some type of body lock or takedown attempt and just ride and ride and ride. Almost no submission attempts, nothing like that. It's just a clock eating like extravaganza against me. And it's frustrating, but I kind of take like a little bit of almost like I've learned like, wow, look at these dudes. They have to fight you this way to beat you. Like, um, so yeah, I've learned no listening to what anybody else has to say about their game plan because that's all sent out as like disinformation basically. And then second to that is, know who I am, like know your body of work, know how these guys are looking at other fights as a blueprint of how to beat you, how to get their hand raised. And if you think they're not, then you're missing something. So I need to look back at my worst performances like that and understand that someone's going to try to replicate that.
Obviously, Ryoji Kudo is ahead, and you don't really get to call out opponents in the PFL, especially once you hit the playoffs. Those matches are made for you. But is a third fight with Bubba Jenkins something you want? Do you want to get that trilogy sorted?
Oh, I want it in the worst way. I want it in the worst way. I was good. I was gracious after losing, and I was like humble about it until I was like basically told by like my family after some of the antics and the bullshit he was doing in the cage because I didn't see it and nobody told me about it. Um, and then when I went back and saw that, like he thinks he's Israel Adesanya, that he dropped like when he dropped Costa and he was like humping him from behind. Meanwhile, this dude is the embodiment of what MMA fans don't want to watch and what's wrong with the sport, how they're bored of it and why they changed the channel. And he's so proud of it. And he's so like his ego is so trash that in the middle of the fight, while he's stalling his balls off, he's dry humping like he's the king of something. Um, so once that came to light, once I watched that, I was like, nah, bro, you're gonna get it. I just have a feeling. I have this feeling inside that I'm destined to get locked in there with him again one more time in the playoffs and to just make him absolutely pay for his bullshit.
Well, would love to see that one. Love trilogies in MMA. They're obviously a big thing in the sport. Gonna ask you one now, not related to MMA or anything, but I know you follow hockey, and the Islanders are out. Who's your team? Who's going all the way?
No, I'm a big Ranger fan, man. So last night was real rough for me. Me and my brother were here at my house watching that game late, and they just no showed, right? Perfect example of what we were just talking about before, an off night, right? Great team, possible, everyone's talking Stanley Cup. And then when they play well, they're dropping 5, 6 goals a game on the Devils. But every game they played poorly, they couldn't find the net. It didn't matter what you did, they couldn't put the puck through. So, uh, who's gonna take it? Geez, and I got some weird ideas about hockey right now. I feel like Florida is about to go on like this little bit of a magical run, and I also feel like the Kraken on the other side are this like Vegas night-esque type of situation, and I feel like they're gonna potentially meet up in the final.
Well, that could be interesting. I'm a Toronto guy, so I got to go with the Leafs, but we know how that's gone in the last, well, several
Yeah,
decades.
I understand. I understand.
Anyhow, can I ask you one more before I let you go? Just give me a prediction for your fight, Ryoji Kudo. How do you see this plan out?
I see it playing out with me being smart, taking advantage of aggression and mistakes that he makes, and he's going to slip up. I'm going to make him pay, whether that's with some type of counter strike offense where he winds up hurt, or if I wind up taking his back and choking him one way or the other. I am looking for a finish very, very, very hard, and you're going to see that.
Well, looking forward to it. Chris, you are a PFL original. Always bring the fight. Best of luck, June 8th.
Thank you so much. Have a
You're
good
welcome,
day.
man. You too.
All right. Bye.